Hello.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to TedxDunLaoghaire. So here we are anyway today with one of our Meet the Speakers. And this is like part of a whole series of meeting the people who are going to go onto the red dot for this year's TedxDunLaoghaire 2020. And this is a really special one because, well, 2020 has been such a different year than every other year, understatement of the century. So what's happening is we're going to go virtual this year. So a lot of TEDx events have been just cancelled, but not TedxDunLaoghaire. TedxDunLaoghaire is like, we're going to have our TED event anyway, and it's going to be even more magic just for that. So on the 23rd of October, we want you guys to tune in all day for our young change makers in the morning and for our adult speakers. Amanda is one of these amazing speakers as well. In the afternoon and stuff, it's going to be going on all day virtually with a global audience. So we're really, really excited about it. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to meet one of the other adult speakers. The wonderful Angus Kelly is waiting there in the background to talk to all of you guys. So how are you, Angus?
Let me bring him in. Let's bring you in.
Yay!
How are you, lads?
Here we go.
How are you, Angus?
Well, I'm not looking as auspicious as the two of you, and
We have a camera in there.
you have an even more auspicious background there with your lovely antique table, and looks like something from the some kind of Middle Eastern jug, and then this weird thing.
You have no idea. She was delighted because she was fixing that like for ages before you got on. So that's what
I looked like Patrick moved her chair. Now you can't see that. She hasn't moved the chair because now I can see stuff on the floor. So where are you coming in from today, Angus? For people who don't know you, where are you in Ireland?
I'm in Dublin. I'm in the office actually, which these days I would not usually be in because we're all asked to work from home, and I would usually be working from home, but I had some meetings today that I have to go to early, this morning and then this afternoon, and also then trying to sort out our computer, or the server on our computer system, which is being painful, unfortunately. And it's my least favorite, potentially my least favorite part of my job is dealing with IT. So anyway, there you go.
We have to get one of our other speakers, Owen Costello. He can help you out with that now. Do you know what I mean? He's
Great
Mr.
stuff. Send him over there quickly.
We're going to chat with you today about your journey, this red dot, and all of that good stuff. So before, I'm after asking everyone this that I've met, were you an advocate of TEDx or watching TED talks or anything like that before your own journey?
Yes, I used to try and watch at least one a week, and that was one of my New Year's resolutions, to watch one a week. I have failed abysmally at times, but then I kind of binge and watch 6 or 7 of them in one go. And then I would also download the podcast, the TED Hour podcast from the US as well, which is very interesting. Yes, I would be. I have to say, I've listened to some very interesting ones, a lot of really interesting ones over the years, and watched them. Yeah. So
and
yes.
When I met you, I was fascinated with the interference there. Fascinated with your background. So tell us a little bit about you and the type. I can imagine the types of TEDx talks that you listen to because your own life is so incredibly inspirational and really unique in a lot of ways. So tell us a little bit about Angus Kelly.
Where is he? I'm from Galway on the west coast of Ireland, but I've been living abroad for most of the last 20 years. I suppose my talk is about living abroad and working in different societies, and then because of the work I've been doing, I've been working kind of on lots of different stuff related to war crimes and human rights and stuff like that for most of the last 15 years. So I suppose my talk is about the things I've seen and the things I would like the world, the things that have made me think about how I would like the world to change and how I see the world burning up. in more ways than in literally and metaphorically at the moment, and what is at the basis of that, and why is that happening? And there's many reasons for that, but one of the reasons I've seen over the years is the kind of division of people. So I suppose, when I worked in the UK, I represented Iraqi civilians who'd been tortured, and one of them was murdered by soldiers in the aftermath of the Iraq War. And then I worked in Bosnia in the prosecutor's office looking at war crimes cases from Srebrenica, from genocide in Srebrenica. And then I was in Kosovo looking at war crimes, but also at organized crime and human trafficking, organ trafficking, drug smuggling, arms smuggling. And then I was in Cambodia working on the Khmer Rouge Tribunal. There, looking at the situation after the Khmer Rouge in the mid-70s, and then I was in North Africa working with the EU, looking at trying to help Libya put its criminal justice system back together again. And now I'm back in and then I was doing work, and I still do a bit of work with an NGO that does strategic litigation. They take cases where they take governments and big business to court for not doing what they should be doing. And then I still do bits and pieces with them. They're amazing. GLAN, Global Legal Action Network, who are based in Galway. But I also am now working with an organization that is a cross-border organization. So it represents the lawyers from the Republic and also from Northern Ireland. And we do work in the global south and developing worlds on the rule of law. So different stuff. But in South Africa, we do kind of assisting, training and mentoring of lawyers from disadvantaged backgrounds, on commercial law stuff, on drafting and commercial law contracts and stuff like that. And then in Malawi, we work on access to justice. And then
Judith is here because we're live here. So guys, if you have any questions, pop them in here and we will ask Angus live here on the show. But Judith has just put up here, Angus, you're a real warrior. You're doing incredible work with human rights. The world needs more people like him. He's a credit to his profession. So huge. And JD's here as well with us, so let's just pop up. We definitely will be inviting Angus back after TEDx to inspire the 2021 change makers, the next generation, which I think is crucial. Do you know that fascinating.
I don't know, Angus, how you had any time to do a TED talk, considering all the things that you were involved in.
But I said it's unique. I meant unique.
You need, Catherine. You need to tell my mother that.
We also have Michelle as well, who's repeating what I said, is charming. He's charming as well.
Oh, definitely you need to tell my mother these things. She wouldn't believe a word of it.
Two women.
And I'll play this video of her later on, and she'll be happy that I'm wearing a jacket and a shirt. But she will be potentially unhappy. But anyway, Mammy, I love you.
Oh, I'm jealous for the mommy as well. I tell you what. All right.
None of us would be here without the mammies.
But I think it's like, how did you take? I mean, like you're just saying all these things that you were in incredibly challenging situations, like where most of us couldn't even possibly imagine. What you'd seen, what you'd been involved in. How did you take that, all these life kind of experiences, and then bring it to the red dot?
As Amanda knows, and as Janie could tell you, with great difficulty of a sort, because I speak too quickly and I have far too much to say. And I think my biggest challenge is reducing it down to a very small amount of time. In essence, I'm reducing a lecture I would give semi-regularly to university students or to secondary school students, and a lecture that might go on for an hour and a half, and reducing it down to 10 minutes is the biggest battle, I suppose. And then staying in one spot, I find difficult as well.
I totally get that. And I do all those things. I talk way too fast, and I can't stand still at any point. So I totally feel that. And without giving anything away, what was the essence then? You decided you're going to take all these experiences, and we do have feedback. But like, what is the essence of your talk without giving it away? What should we expect on the 23rd when we have your virtual event?
That people want to utilize differences to control you, so don't buy into it.
Oh, well. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
And what's been your biggest learning on the journey? Besides confidence talk.
Pardon?
Besides having to take an hour and a half and put it into 10 minutes, which is a huge lesson in itself.
Yes, I think that's a big one.
Personal level, or anything that's.
No, well, I had the great pleasure of meeting nice people like your good selves, and that's one of the things I always take from everything I've done in my life is that people say, like you just mentioned, it must be terrifically hard, and my answer to that would be no, it's not that hard at all, to go into these situations, because I'm just there afterwards. I'm trying to help people that with the stuff in their own countries. Like I have the easy bit. The real hard bit is to be in those places when that happens.
Yeah.
And to experience it, and then to have to put your life back together. So I've got the very easy bit.
I think you have to have that point of view, though, Angus, to be going into the situations that you've been going into. You have to take that something positive. I love that. So meeting the nice people, that's really powerful. And all of our speakers that have come on and talked to myself and Amanda, everybody has mentioned, and I think it's something very unique and special to Dunleary, but I think that's because it's headed by a wonderful woman herself, Jamie Laoghaire. Everybody has mentioned that the support and the team and the fellow speakers has been just a joy, really, to journey with.
For sure. No, I agree wholeheartedly, and that's the thing I would say. And I suppose that's the great thing about it, although it is tinted with some sadness in the fact that because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to do it in the fullest way that we might have been able to do otherwise. But that's life. But then again, that brings me around to the other point of how lucky we are, us living in a place like Ireland, that a lot of the things we take for granted, even if we go into full lockdown again tonight or tomorrow, as some people are saying, that we're still incredibly lucky compared to an awful lot of people in most places of the world. And that's something I would suggest people, me and everyone else, needs to take to heart, because we are very lucky compared to most people in the world.
We have a question coming in here, which is just as well, because we're getting feedback on our side. I don't know why, but there's a question coming in here. So I'm just going to pop it up here, and it is from Sharon. If you could give your 18-year-old self advice, what would it be?
Wow. If I could give my 18-year-old advice.
It is, isn't it?
I don't know, learn to speak more slowly. Get better at IT.
Given the pandemic.
Can I go back a little bit further than 18? Can I go back to like 12 or 14 and say do a business subject? Do economics. I wish I'd done economics. I think it's a very important thing. If I can go back there again, probably do Spanish, do another language. Like, I'm happy I did French and Irish, but I wish I'd done Spanish as well. The more languages you have, the better. So that's what I tell people all the time. If you have a language, then perfect it. And if you have the ability to learn more languages, I would say that's a key thing in life. I'm always telling, I don't have kids, but most of my friends and my brothers and sisters have kids. And I always say the most important thing is to get your kids learning multiple languages as soon as possible, because that's how it really opens up a whole host of other worlds to you. And it's not even about the language itself. It's about the way it makes you think about things, because it forces you to think in a different way about a lot of things and the phraseology of languages. So it doesn't matter if the language is the most obscure language in the world or the most commonly spoken language in the world. It changes your ability to think and to structure things. And I think that's hugely beneficial. So that's going a bit further back than 18, but that's the one piece of parenting advice I give to all my siblings and my friends is get your kids learning as many languages as possible, as quickly as possible, because the younger you are, the easier it is to learn a language. It's much harder to come in at a later date and learn a language.
Absolutely. And Janie's just making a point that, sign language.
Thank you, Sharon, for that question.
It was a great question. But sign language is another, we're like in Dunleary, because we had a brilliant from the deaf community, Joanne Chester, last year. It's become a really important part of the Dunleary event, the TEDx event. So Irish Sign Language is one of those things that'd be lovely to see in schools. And learning from a very young age for inclusion, for sure. And I know actually my children, they both go to an all-Irish school. And It's amazing. I go into Gael schools and it's amazing to see 4 and 5-year-olds just absolute no effort at all conversing in the Irish language because they're fully immersed in it and they don't think about it. I love that, it helps them think differently because it does.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, like for instance, one of the things, can you hear me? One of the things that, like I noticed, for instance, we used to have arguments in court over translations of documents when we were in Bosnia, or in Kosovo, because in Albanian and in Bosnian, Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin, there's no definite, the usage of articles, both definite and indefinite articles, it's not a normal thing. I don't think it's quite correct to say they don't exist, but in essence, they're very rare or don't exist. So therefore, when you translate documents, people would leave out the "a" or the, and that can be a very important thing in a piece of legislation.
Yeah.
But if you know that, then lots of things become clearer to you, especially when you're dealing with people and they're speaking English as their second language, and then, it's like loads. Like I always think in Ireland, when you understand Irish, it frees up an immense amount of place names. For instance, why is a place called a place? Why is it called a place? It gives you an awful hint into geography and history and a whole host of things that are very useful that people don't think are useful but actually are useful. So there you go.
It just reminded me of, why do I need to go around? Why do I get, you try and go around, or I'm not going to school. I don't like school. Why do I need school? I said, yeah, you try grow up in a world and you'll soon realize what's important and what's not important.
Yeah.
So down below here we have our links to the YouTube channel, which I really would love you to go over and subscribe to, because not only will the future TedxDunLaoghaire speakers be here, their talks, but the past speakers like Catherine last year and all the amazing speakers last year and the year before. So we've already heard how they're life-changing. These TEDx talks can inspire, transform, they can do so much. So go over there at some stage and start looking at the caliber of speakers that TedxDunLaoghaire bring to us. Me and Judith, Angus, not let me and you here as well, only the best. But I've got a question for you. I'm going to go back to the comments here, so keep bringing in the questions. And I've got a question for you. Did you leave school, or where did your path come from? Was it always, did you always have a passion for injustice, or where did it all stem from?
Yeah, I suppose a few things like I did law after I left school. I did law in Cork and UCC, so I obviously had an interest in that, and so yeah, and I've always been interested in kind of history and politics and all that kind of jazz. So I think it was a natural progression of a sort, but I don't think it's something that I started out saying this is what I want to do. It just kind of, after I went to university and I worked in a law firm for a while I kind of decided as a gopher, I decided what I wanted to do. And I went abroad and I lived in New Zealand for 4 years. And when I came back, I did my I qualified over in New Zealand, and then I did my cross qualification exams when I came back to Ireland. And when I came back, just after I did my exams, I went to visit a friend of his who was living in Palestine, the West Bank at that time. And I spent 2 weeks over there kind of traveling around Palestine and Israel. And I kind of decided, okay, this is really interesting. This is an area of law I'd really be interested in getting involved in. And then I came back and I was in Galway and I worked in a great law firm called Blake & Kenny's. And while I was working there, my boss was very supportive of me kind of studying and doing whatever I wanted to do. And I went over at a lunchtime lecture to see a guy called Brian Stevenson, who would be, a lot of people might know because he was portrayed in a film called Just Mercy, which came out there about 9 months ago. So he did a lot of work. He does a lot of work. He's a very inspiring guy, and he's done a lot of work on death row cases in the US. And he's from Alabama, so down the south, or he works a lot in the south, deep south. And I went to see him speak, and he spoke, and he was incredibly inspiring. He didn't have to speak in 10 minutes. He got an hour and a bit as well. So, But he was incredibly inspiring, and I said, wow. So after being in Palestine and visiting friends there, well, people I didn't know but have now become friends there, and then seeing Brian Stevenson speak, it was very inspiring. And I said, this is what I want to do. So I was lucky living in Galway. I go do my master's in NUIG, in the Irish Centre for Human Rights. And that's how we started. So it just kind of, I suppose I was a lot of sliding door moments, and I was lucky. I was lucky in many ways because of, on many facets. That agreement between New Zealand and Ireland made it a lot easier for me to cross qualify as a lawyer as I came back. I was very lucky then. The law firm I worked for in Galway the big boss man, Mike Malloy, was very supportive to me doing that, and then and then I was lucky to get a break and get a job over in the UK. I did an internship, worked for free first of all, and then they needed someone to start, so I got the job because I suppose it worked hard, and they offered me a job, and then it's the hardest thing, as I often talk to people, is getting your first step on the stairs, your first foot in the door, and after that it's just about graft and about meeting people and about talking to people and working hard, and I'm far from perfect, and there's lots of work still to be done, but sure, you keep trying to do things, keep trying to get a bit better.
Yeah, one of your mentors coming in here now. She wants to say something. Before we do, on the 23rd, when you get your tickets for the actual virtual TEDx, make sure we're going to be trending. So this is the hashtag TedxDL20. If you're on Twitter, we really need you to go over to our page, because we really, it's a huge goal this year. Because we're the only TEDx in Ireland, we want to trend on the 23rd. It's a huge, big deal. So much work goes into the speakers and behind the scenes, the whole team. So that's me little rant over about that. And I'm going to come back here because your amazing mentor is here, and this is what she's had to say. You are well able, and your talk is going to inspire many.
Absolutely. And as you said, that you get criticized for talking too fast. I haven't spoken to you for the last 22 minutes. I understand why you speak fast, because you have so much to say. My God, you're packed in the life experiences. Seriously, well done. It's very inspiring.
And we've got another question.
Thank you.
Sharon. This is a great question. Sharon, you're really bringing them today. Well done. Thank you for sharing them. If someone had €20 to donate to human rights against war crimes, where would it best place to send or use it?
Against war crimes, well, that's because against war crimes, I suppose you could like I know there's been a bit of controversy recently, but I think Médecins Sans Frontières do amazing work. I know Trócaire do amazing work. I know Concern do amazing work. I know Goal do amazing work. Against war crimes is a kind of a broad sphere, because the way war crimes are dealt with, first of all, is that you have to get in there and stop the war, and that's usually going through states and the UN, or ideally both. And then trying to put the country back together again, and that involves very basic humanitarian assistance, so people can eat and people can, sleep safely and do that. And I think, people get very critical of organizations thinking that it costs too much money to do stuff, and it does cost a lot of money to do stuff, because there's a lot of danger there, and there's also a lot of they have to plan for dealing with a lot of unforeseen circumstances and issues. And therefore, and you still have to pay, you have to pay people to go do that, and so people have to make a living. Now, I suppose if you want to directly deal with people, then it's if the smaller NGOs often have the biggest direct effect, but then you're getting more into, how that works. I'm obviously biased because I'm the executive director of an NGO, a legal NGO here now called Irish Rule of Law International. Does a lot of work now. It's not specifically on war crimes, but it is dealing with people, some of the poorest people around. So last month, my colleagues in our team in Malawi, they had two guys who had been in prison for over 7 years who'd never faced trial, and they got them out. And then in the last 18 months, we've had 15 women who've been arrested for infanticide, for killing their own child, allegedly. And they've served periods of, between a couple of months and 4.5 years inside, when in fact what happened was, in the vast majority of those cases, they had they'd had a miscarriage or had a stillborn child, and they get arrested and put in prison. So that's, you're talking about massive issues there ongoing. And then
do you have a link, or do you have somewhere where people could donate or anything like that we can put up?
Yeah, there's the website is IrishRuleofLaw.ie, and then you can also follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And I'm not on Twitter, I have to say. I know that's heresy to say, but I'm not on Twitter for a very good reason.
Terrible.
Yeah, I'm not on Twitter because I've seen the madness it inspires a lot of people, unfortunately, and its misuse. And you want to talk about division and that kind of stuff, and I'm afraid Twitter is at the top of the table and that stuff. So,
what was the name of that website? Sorry, Angus. Irish.
www.IrishRuleofLaw.ie.
See, that's you talking too fast, so we can't.
Okay.
Jeez.
Okay, I just have to learn to listen fast.
We're going to put that up there now so people can go check it out, Angus, because it sounds brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking that question, because now we have somewhere that people can donate. That will make a difference. You know, we heard it here. So it's lovely to hear background information, because like that, I'm probably guilty as well of saying, oh, they're spending money on this and they're spending money on that. But they need to do that in order to create awareness and to give people income, because people aren't going to do this stuff for nothing. They need to get paid to live.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is that if you want to get, if you want to get good people to do the thing properly, you're going to have to pay them a wage. And then also, if you want to have stuff that actually affects, it affects people and does achieve things, that takes time, effort, and money as well. So, yeah. Yes, Nicola, Irish Rule of Law.
That coming in. So, what's James saying? He's saying, great to have someone who can talk so fast, give so much useful information, and it not seem so fast at all. Brilliant. It's absolutely been so inspiring. Whereas Michelle Waldron has said there, very inspiring, and I have to agree.
Thanks, Michelle.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I'm looking forward to hearing your talk on the 23rd, Angus, because, if it's even an essence of what it is that you have been doing and are doing, it's something everyone needs to actually listen to and learn from, because as you know, I'm sure everybody needs to be fighting these things, whether it's from, just donating or, giving support to people like yourself actually in the field. But it's bring that awareness, because we don't know all the stuff.
Lottie's just said the same. You never know who might be in a desperate need to hear your story. That's why sharing live is so wonderful.
Yeah. No, look, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on out there, and as you said, people don't realize it. But the other thing I would say is that if you go and dig a little, there's a lot of information out there about a lot of stuff. If you can drag yourself away from Premier League soccer or whatever that dancing program is that everyone seems obsessed with at times. I don't know.
Strictly.
There you go.
What's she saying? She's saying, really looking forward to this talk, right up my street.
Hey.
Nicola is not afraid to shout about what's right and call out stuff that's wrong. I think we had that from one of our comments earlier on. It's calling out what's wrong instead of using, just walking past it. So Michelle is saying the same. My God, we've got a big fan club going on here, which is brilliant.
That's because they haven't met me, Amanda. It's amazing how you can portray yourself on the big screen. You know better.
Well, why are you see without the jacket? But we won't tell your mammy, Angus. So with one final, is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? Maybe give a little pinchy,
a taster,
make us a bit more curious. Although they're already saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't wait to hear this."
Well, I suppose, that's what I'm just talking about my own personal experiences. It's not that I'm saying that I have all the answers, or I know what I'm saying is the only way of looking at things, or it's the complete scenario. It's not. It's none of those. Yeah. But it is a kind of deeply held view that utilization of of kind of dog whistle, kind of, utilizing things that can mask, smoke and mirrors, flags to cover up for really bad things. And we all get distracted. We get distracted by these smoke and mirrors, by these flags, by these symbols, when the truth, if you dig in there, is very evident. It takes a little bit of time to get through that, but the truth is evident behind it all. And if you go to places that have suffered because of conflict and talk to people, a lot of the time, if you'll see that. And being an outsider in a place makes it easier to see that. It's a little bit like an oil painting. When you have a bit of distance, you can see things very clearly. If you're right next door to the painting, which we are in the places we live or are from, that's a lot more difficult. But if you're at a distance as an outsider, so that's why it's, for me, it's much easier for me to take a kind of a referee style position on places when I'm there as an outsider. But when we talk about Ireland, it's much more difficult because I'm from here and I have my biases and I have my views and I have my familial connections and, friends and et cetera, et cetera. So that's much more difficult. But I suppose what we have to try and do is try and take that step or steps back and look at the place from that kind of or try to look at it from that unbiased position at a distance. So that's a complicated way of saying, I suppose, in true legal fashion, of saying just try and see the truth, not the mirage.
Yeah, and I think we have that there. There's elephants in every room. There's elephants. There's problems in every country, and it's trying. Look, it's not looking through rose-tinted glasses. It's actually looking at what's really going on. And my final question, I know I said that a minute ago, this is why my Jim hates me. He don't trust you because you keep saying this is the last. So I've one more question that's important to me, and that's, what one tip would you give to somebody who's maybe watching this and thinking, I might apply next year? What would be your one tip?
Do it. What have you got to lose?
Yes.
What have you got to lose? And you learn a lot, and it'll be enjoyable, and it will challenge you. But that's okay. It's okay to be challenged. The things that nothing worthwhile in life is easy. There's nothing. And the things that come easily, you don't really value. That's the reality. So challenge yourself a bit. And it's not, the other thing I would say, and this is, I know Shari's going to talk about this a lot, but I do think there's a lot of wisdom inside everyone, and Amanda knows that D is another classic example. There's a lot of wisdom in the simple things. And sometimes it's hard. You say, oh, look at this guy. He's been to all these crazy places. He's amazing. And you're like, actually, if you want to get down to brass tacks, there's a lot of wisdom in everywhere. It's about recognizing that fact. And therefore, you just have to recognize that and say that the wisdom is there, and look for it, and you have it. Every person has their own wisdom. There's something you can learn off every person. Every day is a school. Every day is a school day.
You're not the first person to say that out of our speakers. You're all so complimentary of one another, and I think we were like that last year too with the 2019 speakers. But someone just said, everybody has a story, and everybody's story has something to give to somebody out there, and that's the whole point of TED and TED Talk.
For sure.
Nicola's just saying here, what's easy now is harder later, and what is hard now is easy later. Growth only happens in discomfort. So if you are watching, following, which and we want you to share this out. I often say this is for ordinary people. Just like you and me and Angus, I know he's extraordinary, but however,
if only.
You are more like there's not many people now in fairness that do what you have done, and
there's more than you think. Trust me, there's more than you think.
Here from Ireland.
Maybe it's just a Galway thing, Amanda.
But you know what? Start following us. Watch the journeys. Come and see the talk on the 23rd. Follow the YouTube. It's see whatever the mind can see and believe, it can achieve. Whatever you can dream, believe, you can achieve.
That's true.
That's it. And when I asked Angus earlier on, what brought you there? I could feel the passion. He didn't have the whole vision immediately, but each step, his passion and his desire grew. So it's not easy to figure it all out. None of us knew what our talk was about. Only a very short time ago, we were all blah, blah, blah. and it progresses with each and every step that you take. So whatever the step is that you need to take, step into it today. Start dreaming, start putting it down as a vision, write it down somewhere, tell somebody, and connect with us. Connect with the speakers that you've seen here. Plug into the group. TedxDunLaoghaire has a group here on Facebook. And I always say, results come from action. So whether your action is to join the group, chat with the speakers, get in there and start taking the steps.
Or be a sponsor. That's the other thing we're looking for as well. It's not too late to be a sponsor of our event and have your logo up there on the Dunleary site, and all day on the 23rd, all the different sponsors, whether it's an expertise, whether it's a small donation, but we'd love to hear from you. Loads of places to connect with us: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah. we better wrap it up. It has been fantastic.
Thank you, ladies. Pleasure was all mine.
Thank you, which is the deaf community's way of saying thank you.
And then
thank you to everyone who's joined us live. Please share out this stream so everyone can hear and see the wisdom from this young man beside us. Like
Jesus. I don't know if I'm certainly not young, whatever about the wisdom. I'm not sure it's wise wisdom either, but I'm certainly not young, sadly. But anyway.
We live now, Angus, till we're over 100, so you're young.
You're young.
On that note, we're going to leave it there, and we look forward to seeing you on more of the Meet the Speakers. The next one is happening now on Wednesday. And then we're back again with more speakers on Friday.
Friday, half one.
And hang out with us and some amazing, incredible people. And we know we will definitely see you on the 23rd, when the whole world will get to see
TedxDunLaoghaire.
So, okay, goodbye. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
See you, ladies. Thank you. Mind yourselves. Good luck. Bye-bye.